First up, we're going to hear from Lemon Difficult. Now, they're a family-run company founded with the goal of building immersive experiences that blend theatre, fine dining and puzzling into a homogeneous 24-hour feast for the active minds of their guests. They've been described quite fairly as standard bearers for all immersive theatre on the scale at which they work. And we have the pleasure of hearing now about the trials and lessons of bringing that dream to reality. So with that said, I'll hand over to Ivan and Emily.
We're nothing. You, me, people we love, nothing but dust. But touch is something so beyond human comprehension. Just for a moment. Something beyond the stars. That we have a chance to mean something, even just for a moment. To mean something. And that's worth the sacrifice.
It has its cost. Learning to see the puzzle in everything. They're everywhere. Once you start looking, it's impossible to stop. It just so happens that people, with all the deceits and delusions that inform everything they do, tend to be the most fascinating puzzles of all. And that's one of your favourite quotes.
It is, yeah. So it's from a show, Elementary, and it's a quote that Sherlock kind of says, and it captures, it's a touch point for kind of everything that we do, because puzzles are physically kind of woven through the experience and the things that we're kind of excited about, but people and why they do the things they do, how you can get them to do the things you want them to do is something that's kind of exciting point, but we'll come back to that. So, if you picture the scene, it's after 10. I'm wandering around a 17th century manor house where the Key of Dreams takes place. It's filled with strange noises, music, lights, and there's a feeling of anticipation in the air. I open a door, and in the dim light, I see a group in hoods, their faces obscured, standing around a kneeling figure. There's some sort of ritual taking place. I leave, I go back into the house, and on the floor, there's someone carefully, frantically drawing a chalk circle around something, and people are, again, burning something there. Walking into the dining kind of hall, there's a roaring fire, and there's a couple gleefully melting some metal kind of over that. Stepping outside, it's cold, there's the damp in the air, and there's a group of people huddled around a lake, pulling something out of it, a box kind of out of it. Now, most of the audience in this particular show aren't live role players, some of them are. Most of them aren't immersive theatre enthusiasts, although again, some of them are. There are puzzle themes of various sorts, but a lot of these people haven't been to an immersive experience before, which kind of begs the question, and always kind of blows my mind about this stuff, is how do they get to the point where they're doing all of these things and it feels natural? So let's start with, I guess, kind of the three pillars that we kind of base this on. So gaming. I mean, I've been kind of a little shy about talking about gaming. There's I guess, a kind of a level of authority when it comes to kind of theatre. It's kind of well kind of understood, and gaming is often sort of a bit of a poor cousin kind of here. But proudly, kind of gaming is kind of a key part of the experience. And when we look at kind of the experience, we kind of start obviously with kind of the narrative, but that gets woven into kind of all of these kind of three different elements, of which kind of gaming is kind of one of them. So there are physical puzzles, and these kind of, most of you, I guess, kind of involved kind of in this industry. So there are puzzles to do with kind of characters, which are to do with kind of their motives. There are quests and scavenger hunts, puzzle games, and all of them kind of have a part, and they provide a different way in for different people, depending on their interests and strengths. Another kind of key element around gaming, which I think kind of good kind of experiences or kind of good escape rooms kind of do, is the social kind of mechanics. So that again is a game, kind of understanding how people will feel when they're put in a particular situation or they're asked to do kind of a particular thing. And we introduce these kind of gaming elements gradually through the experience, through written materials, through activities in the house, but most importantly through the actors who facilitate and guide. And I don't know if you've got anything to kind of say about that now, or we'll talk about this later.
about introducing the
gaming elements,
the
and
gaming
mechanics
element.
and so on. So
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important to not, I mean, we'll talk about this a little bit later as well, to not spoon feed people, but you sort of get to know people as they come in, and you can tell the ones who just want to sit there and do puzzles for a bit and ease themselves in, and that's fine. So for us as actors, we're not all terribly puzzly either, but we know enough to be able to point people to the things that will help them, but we're not going to sit and like spoon feed you and tell you how to do it. We're just like, why don't you try talking to this person over here? Why don't you try looking over there? Just to ease people in. We can tell if somebody's looking lost and we can guide them, but we're not going to take you from A to Z immediately because, you've got 24 hours. It's a 24-hour experience. There's time.
So the next of the three pillars that we look at is hospitality. And this, again, is something that often, you go to an expensive restaurant or a kind of a hotel, this verges into obsequiousness or giving people exactly kind of what they want. But if you kind of picture a scene that you're outside on a cold night, and we've kind of all had this, and in the distance there's your home, or a kind of place of safety, there's light pouring out of the window, and there's already that anticipation of warmth. And you open the door and you kind of hit with that wall of heat. And that kind of feeling of kind of safety, of comfort, and of feeling like you belong is key to hospitality. So we start obviously with the physical, kind of with the space and the food. We have a character who's a host, which kind of helps. And again, by making people feel like they're guests, like you're sure. I'm sure many of us don't live in a house like kind of Tro in. But there is, if you're treated kind of like a guest, the host treats you behave kind of like a guest. You behave with courtesy. You start to understand some of the rules of that kind of experience. We understand kind of the rules of hospitality. Making people feel safe and relaxed kind of in the world. There aren't any staff, but you're, as I say, this guest in this home. And it also encourages the feeling of camaraderie, kind of with your other kind of guests and the other understanding. And already you've got an understanding of the social expectations. Through sharing foods, breaking bread is kind of one of the oldest kind of traditions of hospitality that we have as human beings. And then that feeling of safety and understanding what the world then allows us to subvert it. You obviously need to kind of set that kind of initially, because you can't start with just kind of scaring people kind of straight away or into some sort of strange kind of ritual. You have to start with the normal and the mundane, and it's obviously kind of the basis for almost any kind of traditional horror story that you can kind of come to.
I mean, I try not to scare them straight away,
Well,
but I have been. I was going for charming, but I've been told that I'm overwhelmingly sinister right from the beginning. So I think that must just be me. That just must be something that I naturally carry. But I love that about the place of safety, because all good adventures start from a place of safety. You have to get to know the Shire before you keep walking and walking and walking and walking and walking to Mordor. But all of those trials, if you look at the hero's journey, all of those different characters that you're going to meet, all of those trials that you're going to undergo, you have to start from the place of safety first. And for us as actor facilitators, establishing that place of safety is making sure initially that you're just comfortable, that you're physically comfortable. We greet you, we let you know who we are, so you know who we are, what our function is within that, where your room is comfortable, you get settled in, you have a bit of time. And your safety comes from getting to know your surroundings and getting to know the characters and starting to gauge where you stand with them and learning, and we'll talk about this in a little bit as well when we talk about onboarding, but learning the rules so that you're not questioning, am I allowed to do this? Am I allowed to do this? So then you can feel secure so that as it progresses and the tension builds through the day, we can create a feeling of danger that is in-world. It's in-world danger, but you're not actually feeling insecure and in danger yourself as a person in your reality. You feel safe enough to leave that reality behind and immerse yourselves fully in ours, in the world that we are inviting you into as our guests.
And then the last is drama. So in the same way that we're building kind of a world of safety through hospitality, we're kind of building drama through building relationships with the characters that you meet and the safety there. You can't have I guess kind of an argument with a character unless you feel kind of safe to do so. Not only you, but the other audience members, so they know it's not a real thing. I mean, it is real, and it's a real kind of interaction that's actually happening, but it's something that can feel safe. So building relationships with the characters that inhabit the world. So part of building that relationship is kind of starting to unravel kind of the puzzles of who they are, that kind of mystery, those deceits and illusions that we kind of mentioned at the start that they're kind of telling each other. And this allows the audience to build kind of a connection or rapport, and whether they want to help this person or whether they don't, it gives them something that they can kind of care about. We don't have the budget to blow up the world and have a terrible ritual at the end. Yet, no, but I mean, that's obviously coming, it's on the cards. But you do care about whether you're going to kind of help this person, whether you really don't like them because you've seen them do some kind of unpleasant things. You've got a real kind of feeling, kind of strength there. So fundamentally it comes down to, I guess, kind of two things. We're kind of wanting to make the world and everything in it feel real, despite the strangeness of it all and the weirdness of it all. So allowing the characters to just exist kind of in the world, so that if you're having a conversation kind of with a character, it feels like you're talking to a real person. I know it sounds kind of obvious. I mean, that's part of what actors obviously do, but you don't always kind of get the opportunity to kind of engage with them directly, kind of like that. And then, again, like with the hospitality, the mundane setting the scene for more powerful theatrical and dramatic moments that happen, that can happen kind of later on. And that happen through emergent play. We'll talk a bit about emergent play later, but that aren't necessarily kind of scripted. And they're the more powerful for that because they are directly as a result of, anyway, I'm leaping ahead, of audience agency and stuff.
That was never going to happen.
It was never going to, no, tangents, yeah.
I mean, sometimes actors are required to do different types of. You might be required to play a caricature. You might be required to play something larger than life. You might be required to play to a huge audience of hundreds of people, and you might, But in this, what's great, it's almost like TV acting at times. And this is one of the things about it being a 24-hour experience. One of the things that we've learned from that is you don't have to give people like all of the information straight away. You're not as a character, I'm not going to give away all of my secrets. I'm not a game mechanic. In a way, there is that hidden there under layers, but I'm not just going to go up to you and say, oh, hi, this is me, and these are all my secrets. You've got to get to know my character as a person. And if somebody comes to me and starts just coldly asking a series of questions, they will get a response as if, I, as a person, have just been given this barrier. It's like, what the hell? Why are you just asking me that out of the blue? And so part of that whole 24, you've got time. You get to know, you peel those layers away, and that makes, not only does it make it feel more real, but it also makes you feel like, hey, I got them to give me a little bit of information about themselves that maybe somebody else hasn't got because they're not their close personal friend, or maybe in confrontation, a bit of information has been leaked. It's the cracks in those layers and letting those little bits of information out and making you feel like you've earned it that is itself a reward just as satisfying, perhaps more satisfying to some people than solving a puzzle or a box or something like that. And again, that safety, if all of us have made you feel safe and the environment has made you feel safe so that you feel like you can play a bit and really get into character. If we find us, and I'm judging this all of the time, like how somebody's energy is feeling, some of the most interesting interactions, when we talk about interactions, that we both keep getting ahead of ourselves because we love what we do and are excited about it. But about that place of safety, to feel that we can actually be in conflict. So we might be shouting at each other across a room or having a hushed argument in a corner in darkness, or that you do feel safe enough to come to the cellar and get up to nefarious things.
There's nothing nefarious in the cellar.
No, nothing nefarious in the cellar. What cellar?
I didn't know there was a cellar. Didn't know there was a cellar. So no, again, there's some kind of fantastic points there around. That sounds like potentially kind of hard work on the part of the audience. And I'll talk about why it isn't, because again, the difference between this and I know something like a LARP is the amount of kind of work and effort that needs to be kind of done. And again, Emily's alluded to this, the time allows people to come in and just dip their toe in and see if it's something. And that's kind of one of the big things. But anyway, we'll, again, stop reading this. So onboarding, talking about onboarding. I mean, this is how we get to the point where people feel like they have kind of a measure of kind of control and understanding. So the goal kind of with our onboarding is to make people feel like they grasp some of the grammar of the world. So all these kind of strange things that you can do, it's not just a spell that you've learnt or something you've kind of read that we want it to feel sort of natural. I mean, ideally we want people to effectively do magic kind of by the end of the evening, but to feel clever kind of whilst doing it. So to be able to interact with the world, to have a sense of mastery. So to master the grammar of the world and then do that. And then in the process, they delight and terrify us, but also themselves, because there's a lot of emergent outcomes that come from that. And part of that is kind of some of the tech, part of that is kind of the design, and part of that is the actors. So we start by initially establishing the boundaries of the world, and then we're kind of sending people off. So again, we've again touched on this, how do you kind of take an ordinary person on this kind of journey? You've arrived from a plane or a train or a muddy lane, and there's everything kind of happening around you, kind of jobs, family, the grind of kind of background stress. And then take that, and then kind of by the end of the evening, they're doing a bunch of dark rituals with a bunch of strangers. You have to do it slowly, obviously, but less slowly than you might think. So again, we want things to feel real and to feel natural, no matter how crazy they end up kind of being. So we need to get buy-in kind of from everyone, and I'm sure many of us have been to murder mysteries where you kind of sit down, you get given a sometimes well-written, but sometimes kind of badly written sort of character, and you've got to throw yourself into it. The amount of effort that you put in is what you're going to kind of get back. And then if there's someone that's not quite as engaged, it kind of reduces the experience kind of for everyone else. But that isn't, we kind of try and make that so that it's not the kind of case in here. You don't ruin by not role-playing or by not kind of engaging. It's just, the only thing we accept is be a reasonable human being and respond to the world. So that being the case, there are kind of mechanics around the world that kind of do kind of a lot of the heavy lifting, so in kind of nighttime. But part of kind of how the experience is kind of shaped is through, I guess, kind of gentle onboarding. So Emily's can talk a little bit kind of about this, but you arrive, things are a little odd, but they're not kind of unexpected. Feels maybe a little bit theatrical, but you're fundamentally meeting with people. So although we don't call it this, essentially a tutorial to the world, to the things and the mechanics and the space that you can move in. So these are the things that you can do in the space right now. These are the people that you can actually go to. Then give people kind of time to read. People take in information differently. So the talking kind of might go kind of past them. People might need kind of time to allow some of that to embed. And then we also use, as we've already mentioned, kind of hospitality as a way to teach the grammar of the experience. You're arriving for lunch. You sit down with some of the characters, with your other kind of audience members, the other guests. You learn a bit more. You're just yourself. You're engaging with the people around you. You can engage with the characters, or you might just want to watch other people kind of do that. You're starting to kind of unravel what some of the mysteries and the puzzles kind of might be. But more than that, you're starting to think about what are the sorts of questions that I'm interested in finding the answers to. It might be, well, why is... in the nicest possible way.
Finger came very close to my face. You will pay attention.
Why are some of the characters? Why are they a dick?
Hey!
Really, I wasn't pointing at you, but
literally were.
What's the deal with that guy over there? He seems to be kind of obsessed about this particular strange thing. I'm trying not to kind of provide any kind of spoilers. Or you might be thinking, well, this is a really kind of interesting room. What's the kind of history of this? I remember reading something about it. So it isn't just that the questions are being kind of put to you. You're coming up with your own kind of questions about what is it that you start to care about in the world. So there might be, again, physical problems. You're looking for a solution for why a character is kind of like they are. And then the exploration begins. And the tutorial, the onboarding doesn't really stop until the night time because new kind of bits of information and mechanics get introduced. And part of kind of that is because it's an open world. You can go where you like, and there isn't really a right way to do it, although there is guidance, and the guidance gets stronger the further you get. And there is an awful lot of stuff to do, and it does feel overwhelming. But that is intentional, because you don't get that feeling of kind of satisfaction of kind of cracking something unless there's this kind of feeling of I guess, kind of complexity. But the actors are all there, and the design is there to actually kind of facilitate. And also something that is also key to the onboarding are actually the other audience members. So again, there are kind of delightful moments that kind of emerge where one of the kind of audience is talking to an actor about something they found, and there's just a person sitting on the sofa that pipes up and says, "No, well, I know what that's about." And then suddenly you've made a new friend or kind of enemy, but they've become part of the teaching, and it's providing a space and a structure that allows other audience members as well to actually be part of that onboarding. If you've got anything to...
Yeah, because I just want to bring it back to like the lessons that we've learnt while we've been doing this experience. And one of the, because as an actor, you're given like so much stuff to learn, because obviously it's not scripted. It's just we learn the world, and then we are responsive to you, and we have to bring you into that world and familiarize you with that world. And so this was like initially before the first event that we did, I remember sitting with my head in my hands going, "Oh my God, how?" And it's just trust that your bit is, you know what you need to know, they know what they need to know, and also trusting your guests that they are smart and they're going to bring their own stuff to it. And so the onboarding is actually quite, I know that it does feel overwhelming, but we sort of ease you in. You're greeted in character. You're in the world from the beginning. You have a premise. You have a reason for being there in world, but you are just yourselves. And some of my favorite moments have been people just being truly just bringing themselves to that situation. But you're shown to your room. You're encouraged to relax, not to touch anything just yet. And slowly the rules are introduced, but they're the rules of the house as a guest. They're not, these are the rules of the experience or the game. It's like, no, you're in a house. You're our guest. Welcome. Here is some food. Here's who I am. Here's who these other people are. Please, be polite, be kind to each other before you start, I don't know, betraying each other horribly. There's time for that later. And then once some people will get some information more easily than others, some want to work or play or whatever in a different way to each other. And then you're encouraged to team up and work together and bring all those different skills and attributes together to get through the world. So there's different ways of approaching it. And these are introduced to you just like over lunch. So you've relaxed, you've had some soup, or whatever we're having for lunch, and you're all chatting to each other. You've already got to know each other a bit. And then it's like, hey, so this is the situation. These are the different ways you can approach it. You can go to the library and read a lot of material, or you can team up together and just talk to people and learn things that way, or you can just go and solve some puzzles and that will give you clues. So there's all these different approaches. And if you don't want to team up, you just want to be, you know what I fancy doing? I'm going to grab a cocktail. I'm just going to sit and do jigsaws all day. But, fine. If that's the experience that you want. And then it's our job to get to know you and find out what you're here for and to give you the best experience that we can. And you're encouraged to look, if you're stuck, if you're uncertain what's happening, just come and talk to one of us and we'll help you. You may feel more inclined to talk to some characters than others. You'll get to know some characters better than others. But whoever it is that you get to know will be able to help you and support you in the best way for you.
And I think that's kind of a good point. And the good thing that you kind of touched on there is the multiple ways in. So there isn't, we try to make it so that there isn't an absolute right way, kind of a single way to kind of manage all of this stuff. And that is one of the, come to kind of pitfalls or kind of lessons learned kind of towards the end. But one of the things that we kind of struggle with is tonally, there isn't a right way to do this. So, you might be into TTRPGs or whatever, and you're really kind of into kind of the role playing and kind of some of the social kind of elements. Or you might be kind of very much kind of into the puzzles and uncovering the stories. kind of through that. Or maybe you want to, I don't know, join a cult and progress.
Who doesn't want to join a cult?
Oh, no, so don't mean to. So there are all of these kind of different approaches, but it's the point at which someone's kind of following a particular kind of path and kind of, well, am I doing it wrong? They seem to be kind of doing that, or am I actually stuck on this? And again, because of time and because of the kind of the actor to kind of guest ratio is so high or low, whichever way around it is, where you have lots of
Ratios.
Exactly, ratio.
That's a terrible generalization, but it's just true in my case.
It means that, in the way Emily said, we've kind of found that being responsive is, and this is the most kind of stressful time, really, for me, if I'm kind of honest, is because this is the point at which everything that's kind of been kind of designed and kind of written just kind of has to work, and it's completely out of my control, and it's down to the way the actors kind of engage and the way they facilitate and the way they figure out what it is that people actually want and then allow them to kind of to do that. So I guess kind of the final, I mean, you kind of finish this off, but I guess the kind of the key kind of points around this is that we want to teach people what the experience means, what you can do in the world, kind of all of that, to teach them that they can do it in a way that works for them, that there isn't kind of a right way kind of to do it, and then to respond to that, to give them tools, capabilities that allow them to kind of interact with the world and the guests and to make sense of it, but on their own terms. So,
yeah, and we sort of trust. There's a lot of trusting the material as well in terms of guiding people, because there is so much. There's so much in it, in terms of just physical stuff as well. The puzzles and the reading material. You know that you can send somebody to the library and you trust that either somebody's going to be able to point them to something up there or people are going to find it themselves and the symbols, and that you as an actor, you can go, why not try looking in the archive? And you all have brains. You're going to be able to go and say, yes. Or if you get completely lost, somebody up there will help. And it's just trusting that whole process is going to unfold in this really natural, organic way. And so it's not that we are trying to make you do anything. You find your way through it, and you find your way in. You've got this open invitation into this world. You're immersed in it immediately. And then you dig yourselves into it deeper and deeper, and we support that. And it just, the stakes slowly get higher and higher and higher. And then time comes into it, and time starts to condense. So you've got all of this time to ease into it. And then once you really know, once you think you've got a handle on what's happening, it slightly shifts and everything accelerates. And then it's able to be this very exciting space because of the entire day that has been spent bringing you in to that world, but enabling you to find your way into it.
And it follows the shape of a kind of standard horror story. So, you start and everything kind of seems normal, then it's a bit weird, and then there's some confirmation of the weird, and then obviously things go batshit. And that's kind of goes. So, which, by the time you get to the nighttime portion, kind of the goal kind of is through kind of the various onboarding and the things that you've done, the learning by doing, and as well as kind of by interaction, that you've got some feeling, or the audience have some feeling of mastery. So you kind of know the rules of kind of what it is that you're kind of doing to some extent, or you've got a feeling for it, the way the world works, or you know someone that you can go to that kind of has a feeling of that.
And you've already got a sense at that point of how you can affect the world.
Yes.
As well, because you start to now you know the rules and you know the world and you kind of know your place in it, whether you're just yourself or whether you've decided, you know what, this is a chance for me to be a version of myself that in my real life I don't get to play with. Let's try the dark occultist version of myself, or let's try the noble savior version of whatever version of yourself you want to bring to this. You also then start to get a sense of, hey, this world is pliable. If I have this conversation with this person, I could change their mind about something. Or if I do this physical thing, this is actually making a change this is affecting the outcome of this story. You realize that this, to all the intents and purposes, this world that has been created around you, and the tech supports that as well. There's no like, I am going to do this now. It's like, okay, you do that. So you say some words and that will affect things, or that this, because the rules have been laid down, that anything that can happen is kind of actually having an effect in the world. It feels real, and your effect on the world, the agency that you have, feels very tangible and real. And that's, I think, a really exciting thing for both sides of that. As an actor, it's exciting because I never really know exactly what's going to happen and how you're going to affect me and the house as a whole. And as a guest, as an audience member, that's exciting because you really are forging this story as we go.
And the advantage of that approach is that you can move from one state to another. So, you know, when I tend to go to kind of immersive theatre productions, I tend to be quite analytical and kind of poke things and kind of read things. Because of the kind of short length of time, that once you've kind of set yourself on a path, it can be quite difficult to kind of move. You know, I might want to kind of start engaging kind of a little more because of the length of time. And one of the kind of delightful things I kind of take success, people that are kind of very much kind of into immersive theatre or kind of into role will come and they'll have a great time. And whilst obviously we cater to them, we're not so kind of worried about kind of them. But where we've got, I don't know, people that have come with their children, that have never been outside the country. There's a particular kind of guy that kind of came with his
They won't last long.
With his daughter. No, they don't. And he's completely out of his element. He's a 65-year-old guy. This is just so not his thing. And he's here because this is the first time his daughter's been out of the country. And he's kind of there to support her and make sure it's all right. But she's fine. She's 22 and she's off. And then she's the center of attention. Everyone is coming and asking, well, what does this mean? What did this mean? And he's just kind of delighted. But by the end of the evening, because he's kind of, a lot of the things that he's interested in are kind of social mechanics. Who knows what, who does what. He's, again, kind of at the center, telling kind of stories to an unspeakable thing, kind of trading kind of secrets with an audience kind of around him. He's going to become part of the show, and he's bought into it. And there's literally no way that he would have done kind of at the start. The person at the kind of beginning at the end are completely different. And that's where kind of onboarding through, I guess, kind of learning through giving people kind of capabilities and tools, it sounds quite kind of mechanistic, allows them to kind of gain kind of mastery there. So all that kind of weird lore of the house, all the kind of strange stuff starts to make sense, which is either worrying or not. And it becomes more real because of the actions of the characters and things people have done. And then a lot of the things that have been learned, and obviously this is kind of a fairly kind of standard with good puzzles kind of anyway, there's, if not kind of a meta puzzle, but kind of a social kind of meta puzzle where a lot of the things you've learned early on suddenly start to make sense, or that's what that actually kind of means. And again, that gives you a feeling of mastery and control. So by the time 10 o'clock comes round, and that scene that kind of we described at the start, the audience has grasped a lot of that kind of grammar and is ready for that kind of strangeness. And more importantly, they're actually invested in the world. So they want to stop that ritual kind of happening. They want to kind of say, ha, in your face. Or they want to say, no, I'm so sorry about things happening. Can I help you? Because they care about the characters, and then they're able to feel clever and then do clever or stupid things. So.
Yeah, and sometimes it's, I want to help you, don't make this terrible life choice you're about to make. So it's, I like you, I want to help you. This is a bad choice. So it's complicated and it's lovely. And I think the main lesson that I've learned through this experience, and it's such a wonderful, sort of intense and intimate 24 hours. I mean, you know this, like, as anybody engaged in creating, you know, whether you're a theatre maker or an escape room puzzle, you know that your final magical ingredient is the audience, is the guests, but it so genuinely is, because I'm so excited to see how you're going to use that agency, what you're going to bring to it, how you're going to affect my story, you know, how juicy can we make it?
And it's not your story,
those interactions
for the rest of the audience as well, because they're doing that. So, and that brings us kind of nicely, and we've kind of touched on this on kind of audience and interaction. Emily's going to talk a little bit about this.
I was doing that. I was segueing into that. Did you see what I did there? It was just happening.
It was seamless, and I've just pointed it out, so I've just
thanks for that.
Sorry.
That's fine. You stick to the script. I'll just carry on.
Okay.
But you're throwing me now. No, so it's not like it's not like standard theatre, obviously, but the sort of the theatrical content is not, hey, sit there while we give you a show. Let's give you a little bit of story now, and then a little bit of food, and then a little bit more story. The story is happening and unfolding and being co-created between us throughout, and that is through interactions, and whether those interactions are, you've set off a chain of events which is going to end in something that involves maybe a whole bunch of you will be involved and you'll be watching something unfold or making something happen, or it might just be intimate one-to-one moments where you've taken me to one side because you found something out about my life that's going to affect me, and a conversation that just two of us have will then affect things for many more people, and it just unfolds in this kind of wonderfully woven tapestry through small and big interactions and evolutions throughout. So you can, before we did our first one, you might be like, but will it work? How will it work? And it was just, you got to trust that what might feel like the missing ingredient, that last thing that we need, is just about to arrive at the door, and we're going to show them to their room, and we know that you're going to bring that, and it's going to be great, and that we know what we need to do to support you to be that key part of our overarching story and all of the stories that unfold in the house. It's you that really make that the magic is there for you to come and use, and then when you found it, when you really know what you're doing, it just takes off, and it's just such a joy. Some of my favourite things have just been these little small conversations over dinner are so natural, and it's what you were saying about hospitality, the presence of food and the sharing of the meals. The characters are there with you, so we might just be talking about your holiday. And then there'll be some way into bringing it back to the house and what's happened, just getting to know each other and letting that happen so naturally, and then realizing what effect that's just had. Maybe you've just won this item from somebody. You've just been told you need to go and blackmail somebody or something. How do you do that? You make those choices. I just love it. I love working
and
this
some
way.
people actually kind of do back out, because the point is, again, for you to kind of care about it. And some people, in fact, this chap here, by kind of coincidence, he did some things. He was asked to do some other things that were kind of being vague, that he wasn't very comfortable with. And he said, no, I'm not doing that. That's wrong. I'm not going to do it. And he kind of backed away. And he's very much not a role player at all. So we've already kind of touched on this. It's kind of a continuation of this, but specifically how you can tell stories through the interactions and kind of through that. And you can, I guess, talk a little bit specifically
that
around
photo
that.
there is from, so this is the character Wynne Haffenden, who in this story, in this experience, is recently inherited this house. And so what this is a little bit of part of the onboarding is also weaving the story. So the house itself is kind of like a character. The house has its histories, the house has its stories. And so you're taken on a tour of the house and you're taken on a tour of the gardens. And so you can ask questions and interact and learn more of the facts of the people who have been in this house before you. So that's just a lovely example of that. And then, the story, you never sat, apart from, if you go and see The Collector, you might be sat down and told a story. That story is just going to hint at the themes of the stories of the house, the actual story of the experience itself, and the many, many stories and the layers of stories contained within it. You'll never be sort of spoon-fed that. And that is something that enables you to feel that you have really not only discovered it, but helped to create it.
But it feels personal as well at that point.
Everybody who comes to this, and I feel fortunate, like I get to experience this so many times as the character, obviously, but I have so many magical moments that happen just in this ephemeral way in these interactions that will never happen in that unique way again. Even if the same person comes back, they're never going to make exactly the same choices. And even if you'd made similar choices, that it's not necessarily going to go the same way, because we're all going to be affected by all the different things and the different people who've come and all the different interactions that have happened in that particular alchemical combination that have happened on that day, at that time, with those people. It's really exciting.
There is sort of an alchemy to it. So
It does feel like an alchemy, and everybody brings their own ingredients so that the particular magic that happens is its unique brand of batshit each time.
And then there's, again, there's a lot of overlap between these, and we have already kind of touched on this, differentiation, which is really important. So how do you support people and make people feel clever without feeling patronized? So again, kind of, because this is a facilitation, kind of, if Emily can kind of talk about this, but the goal obviously here is you get people with different skill sets, different interests, some people that are fantastically kind of good at puzzles, and other people that aren't, and trying to kind of encompass all of those people in the same space, and satisfy all of them, but also provide, avenues for them to experiment with something else that they wouldn't kind of ordinarily do. That's, again, the kind of a key thing that the actors kind of do. But I think you've largely covered that. But I mean,
I think I have, but also to encourage people to help each other, so that, and that again comes down to trust again, to just know that that's going to happen naturally, especially when from the beginning you're encouraged to work as a team. I mean, then we do set people against, different factions form and so on. But you are encouraged to share information and share your skill sets. And so it's lovely to see, because, again, until the guests, those first ones especially, arrive, you're not quite like, there's so much. But you see, like, somebody who's better at puzzles is helping somebody who's more into talking to people, and they're just sorting it out amongst themselves. And they both then feel smart,
Absolutely. And again, differentiation is kind of chosen here for purpose. I mean, it's obviously, we all know what it means, but it's particularly kind of strong in education. And both of my partners, kind of Laura and Marianne, they're teachers and kind of a head teacher. And differentiation in the classroom, kind of when you're teaching, but also when you can get the kids themselves to actually teach kind of each other and to kind of provide that kind of support. That's also kind of magic. It's not cheap. In that we're kind of not kind of getting more actors kind of to do it, but it allows the person who's actually doing the helping to kind of feel kind of clever and like they can support it, and the person being helped gets the support that they want. And it's not like we kind of abandon people kind of to do this, but again, this is, the audience is again part of the solution kind of here.
Yeah, and like I said, we don't want to ever spoon feed people, and it also helps, if the character likes you, if the character has, for some reason, decided that you might not be working with them, there will be ways of helping you indirectly. But if my character doesn't feel inclined to help you in that way, then sorry about that. I will find a way to get you to where you need to be, but somebody will support you in a way that is not taking your agency away. And maybe your way of finding out the secrets of the house is just through all these conversations, and maybe it's through solving puzzles. Like we said, it's about helping you to get the most out of that experience for you. Like, what kind of person are you? What experience do you want to get out of that? And how can you help other people and help enrich the world around you and help create an exciting story and experience for everyone?
Okay, so, exciting. Could I have the next slide, please? Aha. No, it's ironic. There we go. Oh my God, you couldn't have planned it. You couldn't have planned it.
Amazing. So,
tech. So my background is kind of big telcos and consultancy and that sort of stuff before this, sort of five years ago or so. So I know it's easy to get obsessed with tech. We've got Raspberry Pi powered radios with various kind of capabilities. We use low energy Bluetooth beacons, sensors, lights, a whole bunch of different kind of soundscapes that change kind of through the experience, some of which are kind of the specific layered effects that can be kind of triggered. So all of that stuff is really cool. And again, from my point of view, it's very easy to kind of say, we've got this and we should definitely kind of use it. That, again, kind of big like lessons here. It's kind of coming back and trying to decide what was actually the point of it, the kind of the key point of the tech, rather than just I can do it and that's cool. But it's moments of delight, so things that people go, ooh, and it doesn't have to be complex kind of for that. And again, to give people that kind of feeling of mastery of the world and the grammar. So we decided the tech needed to be kind of reactive, to make the audiences feel clever, to never give that kind of question of kind of, is this working? Am I doing it wrong? That's just horrible. You've kind of lost at that point. So therefore to effectively disappear. So thinking about how we kind of can affect the environment and how the audience feels kind of by interacting with it. So we use it to, you know, indicate a change in a character or a kind of mood or a clue. And again, apologies, I'm being deliberately kind of vague here rather than kind of very specific kind of with examples here. For world building, so, you know, things that you learn during the day might kind of become apparent kind of at night. So, well, that's what that kind of means. And to help develop a narrative that something has happened or is happening that's kind of referenced kind of in previous clue that's part of the experience. But it all kind of comes back to it meaning something to you rather than, or you go to talk to someone else and you kind of find out kind of what it actually kind of means. Because I'm kind of keenly aware that it's possible to become over-reliant on tech. And that once you kind of have it, it becomes a solution to every single problem that you kind of have. And that's not necessarily the best kind of solution. And by best solution, I mean a solution that gives that feeling of delight kind of in the audience. I mean, that's the kind of whole point of having kind of technology kind of there. But because of through audience feedback and through some mistakes, kind of design review, I'll give you an example kind of about kind of the ending. We had basically a tech solution kind of to our ending, which we had in our first show, our kind of first couple of shows. And it was fine. It kind of worked. But Emily kind of said after the first show, because we have kind of postmortems and kind of review of kind of all this kind of stuff. You've got actual live actors here. Why don't you actually use them? So we kind of tweaked it and reduced kind of the impact of kind of the tech kind of there. We still kind of use it, but the effect is so much kind of more powerful. It makes sense kind of in terms of kind of narrative, and it concludes things in just a kind of a delightful way. So the solution kind of here, or the kind of the answer here, isn't really don't use tech, because tech is great, but it's just careful thought about how it's going to make people feel and what is the effect that you're actually kind of trying to achieve. And is there a low tech kind of solution to kind of do that? Which, again, another thing that's kind of critical about tech is, or that we kind of use it for, is for the idea of emergent play. And Emily's going to talk kind of about this. But the idea is to give the audience and the actors tools and toys, frankly, to play with. They understand how they work and what they mean, and then they can use those kind of in the world to tell stories, to kind of facilitate little kind of moments, to surprise people and delight people. And you're going to talk a bit about emergent play.
Yeah, and to allow secrets to reveal themselves, not only to the guests, but to your character. You know, quite often the tech enables my character to receive something that is new information to them. I mean, on to the point about tech overall and that changing of the ending, that just enabled the ending also to be responsive. But the way that the tech is throughout, there are moments where, especially towards the end, it's tricky talking about this because we don't want to spoil you. But there are definitely moments, especially when everything is coming to a head at the end of the night, where I do notice the tech and I think, oh, that's cool how that is working. But really throughout the day, it's just there and it's just doing its thing. It doesn't feel, it does become invisible in a way. It's just part of the world. And I think that's when you know it's really working. But the way that that's established how things work through the day, so that by the nighttime, freaky stuff can happen. But it's not just that freaky things are happening with the tech, it enables amazing character moments and amazing moments for the guests. So how much I can say about this without this is going to be vague and it's going to be frustrating, and I'm sorry. But this is basically, I had finished for the day. I had done my big thing. My character was basically broken. But then there's this little thing that if somebody finds it is incredibly important to my character. And so Marianne had come up and found me in my room like I was done. And she's like, listen, I know that you're done. I know that you're knackered, but this really beautiful thing could happen. Are you up for it? I was like, yeah, I am. Is it juicy? Will there be trauma? Yes. Can I be more broken than I already am? Absolutely. And so there was this thing where basically pretty much all of the guests followed me in this procession up the stairs to this particular radio at like midnight or whatever it was by this point. And they were able to just watch this particular secret of my character's backstory be revealed and watch my reaction and choose to, are they going to comfort me? Are they going to challenge me on that? That's all I knew in that moment. But it was and that was never going to happen in exactly that way again. But it was just really magical. And that's enabled by the tech.
And to be clear, the difference, or the important thing here is this isn't a cutscene. It isn't like you find the thing, you take it, you trigger it, the actor does the dance or the cry or whatever it is. The point is, it's what it actually means. So again, capability is kind of a good way of describing it because it allows people to use it in the way that they kind of want to. Do they want to be mean with it? Do they want to be kind of kind with it? Do they want to kind of hide with it? All that kind of stuff.
Overall, the overarching lesson that we've learnt so far, and we've had it's been an incredible roller coaster, it's been an incredible ride so far, is trust. It's trusting the team, and we're so lucky that we have a gorgeous team that has become, some of them are actually family, but it's become like a wonderful tight-knit family. We all trust each other. We know what we can do. We know what our capabilities are. We know that each of us are good at our particular jobs. So we can trust that we have the show, we have each other, but we also have learned to trust the guests and trust the experience and trust that it's all going to unfold in this unique and magical way each time.
And to bring it to mechanics, I guess, and because all of that kind of is true, but that's part of, through the onboarding, through the systems, through the design, trying to build a system that isn't, it's a complex emergent system rather than a clock. You know, a clock can be beautifully kind of created, but if any one of those kind of variables or one of those elements actually changes, it will break. So, for example, I set off the fire alarm during one of our shows by accident. In fact, one of the kind of members was kind of there. Now, obviously, I felt like an idiot, and it's a grade 1 listed building, so 3 fire engines turned up. They had to explain what an idiot I'd been. So, however, the actors, because they knew what they were doing, we'd not rehearsed this.
We knew what we were doing, we didn't know what you were doing.
It became
why the fire alarm was going on.
It became a wonderful moment. So again, people are taken outside because obviously we've got, you know, we know we're doing the fire marshal and kind of all of that, but it just becomes part of the experience and not sort of in a pretend, oh, well, obviously the fire alarm's part of kind of the experience. No, the fire alarm's gone off. And then this emergent scene, this emergent play kind of happens kind of outside, which again is just, well, delighted me anyway, cheered me up while I was talking kind of to the by people. So it's building a system that has flex in it, where every kind of element knows kind of what it's doing and kind of supports each other, which is, again, kind of the 3 principles we talked about at the start, kind of they're all important, the gaming, the drama, and the hospitality. And I kind of mentioned that just because, like I said at the start again, I wasn't embarrassed by the gaming side. I'm a gamer, I love gaming. But I always kind of, I want to emphasize the drama and kind of the theatre and so on. But they are all equally important, I think. And again, lastly, letting go. So lack of control. I have spreadsheets. I have...
Oh my God, so many.
Yes, you show an actor a spreadsheet and they'll,
So many spreadsheets.
It didn't hang up on me the first time I kind of met you. But our executive chef, Dom Zeal, who kind of isn't here, during one of our first shows, I was there in the evening and what can I do to help and facilitate kind of any of this sort of stuff? And everyone's running around and they're doing stuff and I have no idea if anyone's having a good time. I just can't tell from the faces. And I go into the kitchen and I'm in a bit of a panic and he sits me down, he says, have a cup of coffee, well done, you've succeeded. Now just trust people to trust the world, and trust the actors, and that's it. That was my big lesson.
Wow. Yeah, so thank you. We have like 3 minutes. If anybody has any questions, and we can do super quick answers. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Stephen and Emily. Does anybody have any questions? Hello.
How do you market to an audience or to people to say, this is going to be a great experience, 24 hours? I mean, the first thing most of my constituents would say was, fuck for 24 hours.
You do get to sleep.
Yeah, but I'm just...
If you want.
It's a very comfortable bed.
Sure, but is it marketed like to justify cost, to justify how do you draw people into that length of an experience?
So, apologised an awful lot for the price kind of initially, which was a mistake. Kind of try and justify it. So, it's emphasising, I guess, for different constituents, what are the elements that they're interested in. So, if it's kind of an escape room kind of crowd, there are some kind of overnight escape rooms, but again, it's kind of pitching to that. We get a lot of people come from the States, from North America, so you're staying in a 17th century kind of manor house, sort of.
Well, that it's unique,
exactly,
that it's luxury,
yeah.
That you're going to have a completely unique experience, that there's high quality, everything is going to be like the best quality, and you're going to have a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
I'm embarrassed by my initial site, which basically had everything on it, just like blur, it's this and this and this and this. So practically having different landing pages that emphasise different kind of elements of the experience that you think. So we do some targeting for when there's a con in a particular city, we do some kind of targeted marketing there, and then we have a particular landing page for that emphasises that. So, there's kind of a big Lovecraft kind of convention in Providence, and again, we have kind of something that's kind of tailored there. So.
Okay, I think we've got enough time for maybe one more question, if it's a quick one.
I'm sorry, grab us later. If any of you have more questions, just find us and chat.
They will be roaming, so do grab them.
Hi, my question is about narrative. When you were first developing this experience, like kicking it off, how did narrative help inform the games you chose and the decisions you make, or was it more like narrative adjusted to those types of things? This is a long question.
Yeah, so again, Laura kind of Langrish, who's kind of the lead writer, kind of partners, she kind of did most of the writing work. So we started with the narrative. So because there's a thing, kind of as a child, you want a particular toy, and then you get it. It does this huge kind of idea in your head. Embarrassed as a child, He-Man Master of the Universe was kind of my.
That is not embarrassing. That is legit.
All right, fair enough. I mean, the reboot's great, but. But then you get it and you kind of realise it's really just a bit of a plastic thing with a sticker on it. And I'm keenly aware of that, and that's the thing I want to kind of avoid. So starting with the narrative and then building mechanics around, or puzzles kind of around that. Now, that isn't 100% true. I've just lied. Obviously, a puzzle box is a puzzle box, and there's not a lot you can kind of do about that. But the conceit of that is that there is a reason why there are puzzle boxes, and they're there. And it's not an integral part of the experience.
So can you please just again, very, very big thank you to Ivan and Emily for coming and telling us about the Kid Dream.